Hello there and welcome back to Wheels of Interest, and we're on the third episode of Mini Clubman Estate rebuild. Second episode saw us discussing the bracing for the body shell because we're about to take out the floor, the complete floor. And a quick recap from where we were last time was that it's got half a floor in it because I've already cut half of it out, thinking I was going to do half floors in this, leave the tunnel in, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm replacing the whole floor pan, which means I need to do more bracing to the body shell. We discussed it last time. I was looking for advice and tips and any sort of useful information, and a few of you came forward and suggested a couple of things I should do, which is all really good, and thank you for your time on that one. I appreciate that because every little helps with this. I'll take you around. I've done a few things since we last saw it, a couple of extra bracing brackets and such like, but I'm going to take you around and show you what I've done up to now, and then we can discuss what I'm going to do next, and I'm hopefully going to get that extra bracing and everything else welded in today and all ready for the floor pan, which I'm told by my supplier arrives tomorrow, so I'm very pleased about that. So that's where we're at with the bracing on the floor pan. That's what we're going to do next. The other job today, what I want to try and get on with is I need to fit the doors because I need to put this A post in where it was all rotten. Again, quick recap, I've got the floor step in for this side, the driver's side, and I've got it braced across the door aperture to hold it. And the same for the passenger side when I've already done that doorstep, but I'm really conscious that I'm going to screw this up if I'm not careful. Currently, the door aperture is braced across the outside where the door would normally fit. I want to fit the door because when I put the new floor pan in, I'm going to put that up to the door steps that are in. The driver's side doorstep is currently hanging free. I haven't finished that one yet. The passenger side one is done. But I want to check that the doors fit before I fit the floor pan, because if the steps and the A-pillars are in the wrong place and I've got lots of horrible gaps, I need to repair that or do something with that before I put the floor pan in, because once the floor pan's in, that's the datum, that's where everything's going to go from. So really I need to use the old measurements and dimensions from the current car or current body shell as it sits now to fit the door steps and the door post with the door in place so that I can see that the gaps are all good and everything's where it should be, and it's nice and parallel and the gaps are straight and they're not too wide. And then the floor pan can go up to those two door steps. And I need to do that now because, as I say, if I don't do it and I put the floor pan into what I've got, then possibility is going to be that the doors are not going to fit properly and it's going to look blooming horrible and they won't shut and they'll just, apart from anything else, it'll annoy me, but everything else won't be right. So we got to get that done as well, but let's have a look at the bracing on the floor pan. So what we currently have is got a square frame which goes across between the two A-pillars at the front. We then got the back part of the square frame goes across the companion bins where the seatbelt mountings go. And then we've joined that together with some box section here, both sides. On the door apertures, I've put in some inch box section across the front of the door. This is where the door would normally fit. And I need to cut this out and put it on the other side so that when I fit the door, or so that I can fit the door basically, because obviously this is in the way of the door. And I need to do that so that I can get these in the right place, as I explained. What I'm proposing to do next is I'm proposing to brace the whole thing from the toe board here at the front right the way through to the rear floor at the back here, to try and hold everything together when I cut out this bottom floor here. So that's what I'm planning to do, and so far what I've done is I've cut a couple of plates, one this side and one over the far side there, to bolt through where the subframe would normally fit. To that I'm going to weld some box section here, so that's coming up from the toe board up to this T-bar here that I've welded in. And then I'm going to go back with another piece of T-bar all the way back to the boot floor, and I've picked up a couple of holes on this rail here, made a bracket, screwed it through with there's a couple of captive nuts underneath, screwed that down, and then I've angled the bracket down so that I'm going to weld this or tack this to the bottom of the boot floor here on the front edge. This is going to stay. This is the part that's going. So from here, where the current floor pan is basically spot welded to this ledge here, all of that is going to be gone. I'm going to cut this all away. So the idea is to try and tie in the rear boot floor, which is this part here, using this as the bracket mounting. And then I'm going to weld this T-bar across here all the way back to the front, which is going to meet up in line more or less with the toe board brackets which I've got there. And I'm hoping that that is going to hold everything where it needs to be. And I'm also going to put in an extra piece from here downwards to the frame that's here. And that's what I'm planning to do. And I'm going to do that on both sides. And I've made a bracket for the other side as well, as you can see. So that's where we're at, and I've got the front toe board plate on the left hand side as well. So that's where it's at. Let's get cutting, grinding and welding. Right, we've got the braces from the toe board cut to length. We've got the T-bar going back to the rear boot floor cut to length, and both sides. I might gusset this here because I've got no other strength here other than this weld that's going to be along here. There's only going to be one weld, so I might actually put a gusset across here to make that a triangle, make that stronger there. I'm not going to go mad, just going to basically a bit more than tack welding, but I'm not going to go all the way around. Perhaps I may do, I'll see how I feel. And the more observant of you may say, where did you get that steel from, out the Titanic? Well, yes, I'll admit it is not the best steel. It's been in the weather. It's quite thick angle iron and T-iron and box, but it has been outside in a steel store on the back of a building for many, many years. I inherited all of this from my father because, as I've probably said before, he was a welder and he used to build all sorts of things out of all sorts of bits of metal, and we've got a lot of that metal left over. So while the T-bar does look pretty corroded, it's not lost its strength in any way, because all I'm doing really is bracing a Mini. I'm not holding up a crane or anything like that. I wouldn't use this to do any structural work with that's permanent. I'm basically just going to be bracing this body shell, and this iron is going to go in the scrap bin afterwards anyway. When it's all done, I shall just cut it all out and it'll go straight to the scrap man, and I'll get a bit of money back. And oh well, I may keep the longer lengths, because the longer lengths are very useful for other little odd jobs and projects, such as bracing Minis, of course. So that's where we're at. Next thing is to weld all this lot in, but I think I'm pretty much ready to go. Right, now we've got them welded in. Struts on the front on the toe board up to the T-bar and across the A-pillar. We've got the T-bars coming from the T-bar crossbar, keeping up with the bars, all the way to the back up to those brackets, but I've left these loose at the moment. They are able to move. And the reason I've done that is because I'm going to mark where they are at the end on that plate. And I'm going to turn the car upside down and see if there's any movement, lateral movement, backwards and forwards, with these T-bars, which will tell me whether the car is flexing in the middle as it goes upside down. And I'm expecting around about 4 mil, because that's what we had when we were fitting the half floor, and every time we tried to line it up, we got it lined up when it was the right way up, and then when we turned it over to weld it, it moved by 4 mil, and it moved everything out, and we had to start again. And that went on for ages like that, trying to figure out what was going on. Now, nothing's changed in terms of what's been braced. So I'm expecting it to carry on doing exactly that. And when I weld the back of those T-bars onto those brackets and weld them to the boot floor, I'm expecting everything to be then very rigid. So let's see what happens. Okay, let's turn it upside down, see what happens. I don't know if you can see that, but that has moved less than half a mil. That is hardly flexing, which makes it even more perplexing. I'm a poet and don't know it. that makes it even more unusual as to why we had a difference between upside down and the right way up, because that has not moved, which is what I'm happy about. I wonder what it's like on the other side, because that's the side that's missing its floor, isn't it? Let's have a look at that one. That one has moved a little bit more, which is no surprise because there's no floor in there. So I'm going to mark that and see actually how far that is. That's moved a couple of mil. That might explain it. We're looking at this mark here, and we're looking at 3 mil. 3 millimeter movement backwards and forwards this way. That line is the wrong line. That line is the correct line. That's the one we started with. That's the one we ended up with. And it's to the bottom of that mark, to the top of that T-bar, is 3 mil. So we're getting 3 mil movement on this side, and we're getting 1 mil movement, 1 millimeter movement on the other side when we turn it upside down. I'm not worried about that. I think we can get away with that. I'm going to brace it this way up so it won't move, because clearly that's where it's moving. It's moving here. So if I brace this, I weld this along here, that cannot move that way or that way. It is then welded in position. Weld the bottom part of the bracket, just tack that to the floor so that that is nice and strong on there, and the bottom of the floor doesn't drop away, stays in the same place. The only other thing I'm going to do is put some cross triangles in, just one across there, so I've got 2 triangles, so it's not 2 parallel bars. And I'm going to put in also I'm going to put in a piece of steel from there to there to join these 2 together, so that that can't sag and go down, just as belt and braces. I mean, that's pretty solid as it is, just doing that. Actually, I can't hardly squeeze that. That's moving a tiny bit, but it's hardly anything. So I'm actually quite pleased with what I've done there. So let's get that all welded up, get that done. It's that time of day. The sun's down, it's tea time, and I've got done what I wanted to get done. Absolutely chuffed, actually. Brace for the front, toe board up to the T-bar across to the A-pillars, so that's nice and rigid. The new T-bars going right the way back to the boot floor and then down onto those angle brackets off that rail, all nicely tacked in. I've not gone mad with the welding, maybe in places perhaps. I've also put in a couple of blocks just to join this angle here with the T-bar here, just to join the bottom frame with the top frame. Just a little bit of belt and braces. I finally welded in my angle across there, which I should have done ages ago, but I've measured it and it's all still square, so nothing's changed, and I've put the angle in now, so nothing will change from now on. So I'm happy with that. I've got triangles in there. The only thing I have not done is I haven't welded this one in. That's one of the door struts that was on, and I'm going to weld that across there, so that's a triangle, probably the other way around actually, like that, something like that. I haven't done that today, but that's just a quick 5-minute job, that one. That won't take long, but it's come to the end of the day now. I've got to go. But what I am chuffed about is I've taken off those struts, as you saw. That one's, one of them's there. I've welded in on the inside, which I don't know why I didn't do that the first time. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? On the inside I've welded a brace around the edges there, and I've done it on the same side, on the other side over that way there, exactly the same on the inside, so that the door can go in and it can clear. Now this side is the one that's waiting for the step, but I'm happy, nothing's moved. That is exactly as it was when we took it off. When we took it off, I clearly remember that it caught just there, and all he did was a tiny lift and the whole thing shut. That door has not moved, that door frame has not moved 1 millimeter. Absolutely bang on with the bracing. So that proves the bracing I had was good, and it also proves the bracing I've got is still good. There is going to be a little bit of flex on this front pillar because I've got no doorstep in holding it, and that absolutely, and the gaps on there are great. Absolutely got no problem with that at all. So I can now fit this doorstep on this side to match this door. I'm really pleased with that. That's really good. The other side, not quite as good. This is where I have put the doorstep in, and I also remember that when we took the hinge off, we sheared the bolts on the top hinge. So I'm holding that with a vice grip at the moment. This one is a little bit, I can't really open it very far because of the vice grip at that end. But this one, it shuts, not too bad. I've got a bit of a gap here along the top. Pretty good down here, pretty good here. Not too worried about this, it's okay. You could probably come back a little tiny bit, a little bit of adjustment I think. But again, I've got to possibly play around. I've got some clearance on these holes here to be able to lift the door up a little bit and maybe take up some of that gap there. It's a bit difficult because, as I say, I've got to vice grip it because I've got no bolts there. So there's some clearance in those holes already, and I've not opened those out. That's how they are. You can probably see the bottom one's also got clearance as well. So I've got a few millimetres of clearance there where I can lift it up and down. But I'm happy that that doorstep is actually not in too bad a place. Quite pleased with that. Bit of adjustment on the lock. And then down here on the bottom, yeah, it could go up a tiny bit. If you can see that, that door could clear that step a little bit more. So yeah, I think that's actually not too bad. A bit tight here at the bottom. So I think the whole door has to go upwards. But all things considered, I'm pretty happy with what I've got. And I'm much more confident now about cutting out the rest of that floor. Obviously we'll take the doors off, take the weight out as much as we possibly can. I've probably added 1/2 ton with all the steel I've put in it. But I've got to get this right now, because if it goes wrong, when I've got the floor out, I've got absolutely, I say 0 chance, probably not quite as bad as that. But getting that back will be an utter nightmare. But I'm happy that it's braced well enough. I'm very pleased with what I've got. So it's come to the end of the day. I've got done what I wanted to get done. Pleased with that. Floor comes tomorrow, which I'm going to go and collect at some point in the next few days. That then allows me to get on with cutting out the old floor. Before I do that, of course, I've got to do in the driver's doorstep. But now I've got the door lined up, and I know the door lines up properly and nothing's moved, then I know exactly where I'm going with that. That's going to be fairly straightforward. It's all cut out, ready to weld back in. I've just got to cut it to shape, fit it in. Then I've got to cut the floor out. That'll be a day. Thank you for watching. If you left it to this far, thanks for sticking with it. Much appreciated. If you're thinking of doing one of these, don't underestimate the work required. It's taken me most of the day to get this extra bracing put in, but I've got to put the time in now to get it right, because if I don't, what's going to happen is the thing's going to fall into pieces and I'll have more scrap than I've already got, and the whole thing will go in the bin. And I don't want that to happen, because I want to see it driving up the road as soon as possible. Please like. I'm an optimist. Perhaps not. No, I'm actually not an optimist. I'm a pessimist. But anyway, I'm trying to be optimistic about this. Yeah, please like and subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. It's free to do that. It'll keep up with our algorithm. That'll keep it going. More people we get, the more people watching, the more people see it, the more people will be inspired, the more people will learn stuff, the more I'll learn as well as I go along, because it motivates me to get on with it and do it, and it just helps everybody. Chuck a like on the video if you liked it. Please share any comments if I'm doing it right or doing it wrong. Let me know. I try to reply to anything I get sent, and if you've got any queries, please ask, and I'll help you through with best I can. I'm learning as I go, and I'm happy to share what I've got. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care, and bye for now.